Hello everyone, this is the continuation of my Foundry and DC20 tutorial series. Today we're talking about character creation. So over here you can already see I'm on my Actors tab here, and you can see this character creation wizard. This is the button your players are going to be pressing when they want to create their character. Talking about players as well, we might as well talk about user configuration within Foundry, right? So inside the settings, game settings here, you can actually go to user management. So if I want my players to, join my world, or actually have users that are configured to them. First off, I'm going to delete this here. I can create additional users for all my players, so we could get one for like Bob, yeah, and then Lockjaw for some other reason. Right. So yeah, we can create that. We can also add a password for our GM. So let's just say we named it like something like Halo 14, and then we can hit save and return. And then I can join my game master. They won't let me join once I type in the password, which we set Halo 14 as the password. So that way my players don't accidentally join my GM account and see everything else. Right? So over here you're going to see this little actors tab, and you're going to see this open character creation wizard. Okay, this is actually very important to use. But yeah, you can click this open character creation wizard, and then you can see it brings up this. This is going to be basically your step-by-step guide on how to create a character within Foundry. So first off, we're going to give our character a name. So I'm going to call this guy Onyx. And then we can also choose an image. So if we already have an image, we can upload one, or we can just grab one from the core data and go to icons and then go for like creatures. Okay. Let's do just do, for example, let's actually stay away from this one. Let's actually go here and choose a character like nope, I actually don't like any of those icons either. Knowing me, I'm probably gonna have to try the icon. Actually, I think I know exactly what icon. We'll use this one. Why not? Right? So that will be our icon. Then we'll, of course, change up our scores to do whatever we want. So here's how the scores are going to actually work. So you're going to see this is exactly what everything looks like. You're going to choose one stat to be your 3 stat. So for example, I'm going to choose agility. And I'm actually going to change this icon again to actually just being this one over here, just because I have a design here. And then we choose one to be our 1 stat. So for example, I'll choose intelligence, right? And then we'll choose another one to be 0. And then we have 2 extra points to spend wherever we want. So if I want to balance things out, I can put these 2 points into might, which is what I'm going to do. And then you can select your save masteries, which all you'll do is click this little shield right here. So I'll select my save mastery for charisma, and then I'll do one for agility as well. Okay. And then, of course, you can also click this little button here to provide stuff manually, but we're not going to do that. Next up, we're going to hit Next, and then immediately you're going to see our ancestries here. Okay. One of the cool things about DC20 is that the fact that you can actually mix ancestries. So I'm going to showcase this here. So if you want to like have 2 ancestries, basically if I want to be an Angelborn mixed with a Dragonborn, or a Beastborn mixed with Elf, which is what we're going to be designing today, I can mix both of those. So I'll click this little Mix Ancestry button, and then click this little Compendium pack as well. And I'll find Beastborn, and then I can press this little plus button on it, and then I can also find Elf and add that into it. And then I can hit Close, and you can see both of these are right here, and then I can hit Finish. And right at the top, you can see my Beastborn Elf um, uh, mixed ancestor right there. So I can click Next on that, and then click on Beta Background. And then immediately now I can choose my class. So for today's class, I'm actually going to choose a hunter, but you can choose any class that you find on the list. Some of these include stuff from my own module as well, so keep that in mind. So some of the classes you see here are going to be necessary classes you see. Okay. And for starting equipment, you can actually hover over this question mark, and it will tell you what starting equipment you can select. So for example here, I can select 2 weapons or shields. So I'm actually going to select 2 long swords, okay? Yeah, so I can actually look at these weapons. So if I want to like click on a random weapon, let's say a bullwhip, I click on this weapon, you can kind of see there's the system tip, but then if I press this little show item details, it gives me more information on this item, like Okay, so this is its style, this is everything else it has. Impact, reach, unwieldy, versatile, all that stuff. So it's a very useful thing on there. Okay, another thing to note, if you don't want your players to see certain, you can click off this, that way you don't actually see items icon for modules. You can also just search up an item, so let's say longsword. And you can kind of see there's a longsword in here, so we can just press add on that, and we can get another longsword. Okay, so that's also something we can do. Another thing you can do if you want to search for a specific weapon type, let's say range, because we do need a ranged weapon, I can just click on ranged right there, and then now I can find all the ranged weapons, which we're going to say longbow. Okay. Another thing that you can do is look for a specific weapon style. So let's say I want something with like the axe style. Boom, it gives me all the weapons with the axe style here. So it's something worth noting as well. Okay. So I think that's all of our weapons inside here. So next thing that we can get is going to be armor, which I think we get one set of Nova's light armor. So we'll actually hit the compendium button again, but this time go over to equipment, and then we are going to look for some Nova's light armor, which is right here, and then we'll just go this little add button, close this, hit finish, and then now we can apply our advancement. So you see there's no selection here, so we'll just hit apply advancement for this, and then here's where we can actually select our stuff. So the two things I'm going to want is grassland, because this increases my jump, my speed, and jump distance by 1. My goal here is to build the fastest character I can. So we're going to grab that. And we can also grab jungle. That way, you know, we're immune to difficult terrain, right? That is very, very useful. Then here, you can already see we get some martial expansion stuff, because some of this stuff requires some styles, requires certain things. And then, of course, we learn the benefits of attack maneuvers. So we'll grab that. And then we'll also grab some certain things here. So I'm going to try to build the fastest character I can here. So we are not affected by difficult terrain, so we're good in that sense, right? So again, really good in there. We can immediately grab a 0, so we get to choose 1 0 trait. So we can choose Beast Kind, like if we want to speak the limited capacity of a cat, because that's basically what I'm basing this off on. Or we can just get advantage on stuff like that. But I'd rather speak limited capacity with cats, so that's better for me here. Another thing I'm going to grab here is going to be the speed increase, because again, our goal is to build the fastest character. And you can see here's how many points I have left to spend. So you can see here before I had 5, and then now if I choose that, it only gives me 3 because this costs 2 points here. Okay, so, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff. Another one I want is another speed increase, which is very, very useful. Okay, I'm also going to try to take sprint, and then of course, another one I really want showed up was reflexes. So I'm going to grab that. Immediately you can see that I have -3 choice points, which basically means I owe 3 points. So I have to choose some minus traits just to get rid of this. So immediately I'm looking for some minus traits that would be like easy enough to get rid of, but isn't going to hurt me too bad. So one of the ones I am going to take is going to be small size. Okay, we are going to take short legged because again our goal is to be fast. Okay, and I could take reckless. I think that could be a good one. And then we might also take frail. Right, that way now we're actually on a good scale when it comes to our points. So we took 3 minus traits but gained like so much speed in here. I think we gained like 2 speed traits. So we should be at a speed of 8. So we're the fastest character there is. So yeah, we'll hit apply advancement. And then now we can get our maneuvers. Right, so I'm going to open up this compendium browser here. And I'm going to select the maneuvers that we want. So I'm actually going to take expose, hamstring for the slowed. And then I'm also going to take parry for that +5 to physical defense if I need it. And I'm also going to take trip. So there's all of those maneuvers. And now I'll hit apply advancement. And then here's where we get to actually choose our knowledge stuff, our skill, like what our background is and whatnot. So if you press this K here, it will actually convert one of your skill points into 2 knowledge points, which can be spent into one of these here. Another thing you can do is press this T over here, and it will convert it to a trade point, right? So which can also be spent on any of these trades here. And if you want to revert like a change, you can just click that back arrow, and then it will bring that point back. Another thing you can do is actually convert a trade point into language points. So you can convert 1 trade point into 2 language points, and 1 language point makes you limited, 2 language points makes you fluent. Okay, so let's do our skills first. So I am actually going to want to do some awareness, acrobatics, survival, insight, and probably stealth. And then over here, I'm probably just going to do history and nature as my knowledge stuff. Right. And then over here we have our trade points. I'm actually going to be thinking about just doing alchemy, and then of course maybe even herbalism as well. So we'll do all those. And now I have 4 language points, so I'm going to put 2 points into Fey, and then I'm going to put 1 point into some common sign, and then I am also going to put 1 point into let's let's make ourselves fully proficient in common sign, and then we'll hit finish, and there we go. Our character is made, and here it is. Right, so some of our stats are going to be a little bit off, so we'll just hit the plus button on that, and then boom, our character's done, all in here. And you can already see we built a pretty quick character because you can see our ground speed's like an 8 with everything. We can also equip our items, that way we can see exactly our physical defense and whatnot, which you can see our physical defense is a 14, which is pretty good considering everything, right? Now, another thing that we can do in here is we're checking is our prototype token. So you can click this prototype token on the right hand side. So if you want to change the token name, you can also change when it's hovered by as well. That's something to worth noting. Another thing you can do is change the appearance. So if you have a different image that you want to use, you can change that here. You can change the dimensions of the character, and then a whole bunch of other things here like ring and all that stuff too. Another thing that you can do is make sure the vision is properly enabled. So make sure the vision is enabled with the character as well. And then another thing you do is add light and of course manage the resources there. Update token. Another thing you can do is click this little edit tab, and then you can actually edit the token image by clicking the actual image of the token, right? And you can see here, since we have tokenizer enabled, it actually creates a token ring around our guy. So, and we can just change this frame by clicking add frame thanks to tokenizer, and then voila. You can see you have a whole bunch of tokens here thanks to tokenizer. But yeah, we're going to apply that. And then let's get into the whole, what this character sheet has. So right here you can see this pencil icon, which is the edit. So this basically allows you to edit everything else. If you want to add another skill, you can add it in here as well. Okay. Worth noting, if you want to add a default skills, you can actually just go to configure settings, go to DC20, open skill customization, and of course add your skills, trades, or whatever you need to add in here. Right? All of that can be managed in there. So if you want every player to have this certain skill or a certain language that they can learn, you can configure that in the settings. Right? But yeah, that edit thing allows you to pretty much edit your tokens all right there. Next thing you have is your physical save and mental save. So if I were to click one of these, it would actually allow me to pull up this roll menu and actually roll these saves as well, right? Over here, you're going to have your attributes, right? So you have might, agility, charisma, and intelligence. Then over here, you're going to have your action points. So you can, if you press this little minus icon, it actually subtracts your action points. Press this, it will actually increase your action points back up, and you can hit regain all if you want to just regain all of your action points. Right here, you have your HP, so if you want to enter temporary HP, you can do it here by just pressing 4, by entering in there. Or you can also just, right here, you also have your HP, so you can just click this little minus button to decrease it, and this little plus button to increase it, or you can also just alter it manually as well. Okay? Next up, you're going to have your death threshold. Basically, this is the amount when your character is officially dead. In DC20, you are going to be making death saving throws, but the moment you're at like 0 HP, you're not fully dead. You have 1 action point, so you can do that 1 Hail Mary, or do something to allow you to escape, or drink a potion, of course. Okay, but the moment you approach -3 health points, then you're dead, right? Also, it's worth noting that once you reach 0 HP, you will also gain exhaustion, right? So this is how you would add exhaustion. You can kind of see it subtracts everything by 1. So worth taking note of. Okay, so you can click this to enable it, or you can just right-click it to decrease the value, right? And then on this side here, you're going to see your stamina points. This is what marshals use for the maneuvers. Mana points are going to be what you use to cast spells. Grit points are actually very, very useful because this can actually, when you get hit with something, this could be used to subtract the damage by 1 or give yourself advantage on a save. Okay. On top of that, you could use your AP to give yourself advantage on a save, but grit points pretty much allow you to give yourself advantage on a save without the use of AP. And grit points are based on your charisma. Right. Then of course you're going to have your rest points here. This is the stuff that you're going to be using when you take a rest. Over here you have your physical defense, and then your mystical defense. And you can see these values below it. This is separated by every 5. So every 5 in DC20, if you beat an enemies by 5, you deal an extra point of damage. And if you that will be like a brutal hit, pretty sure. Heavy hit will be +1 damage. And then if you beat it by 10, then it's a brutal hit, which increases the damage by 2. And if you land a nat 20, you'll do 2 extra damage plus the values that come after that too. So very, very cool stuff there. And then of course you have your physical damage and mystical damage reduction as well. Right here you can see your movement speed and your jump distance. And then over here you have your ground climbing speed, flying speed, swim speed, and burrowing speed, all right down there. Okay. And then you have your other checks. You have your attack check, spell check, just a flat D20 roll, your martial check, and then your initiative right here. You can also see your save DC right there as well. Okay, all that right there. Okay, but here's going to be your name, here's your size, and then here's all your senses right there, and then you have your combat training, so whether or not you're proficient with weapons, light shields, heavy armor, or light armor, etc. This right here is going to be your class, and then you have your ancestry right here, and your subclass if you were to select the subclass, and then you have the beta background as well. Then right here you have all your skills and whatnot, your knowledge skills, your trade skills, and then your languages. And you might notice, okay, so I'm looking at the, trade skills, right? I'm noticing that all the trade skills are showing up. Well, you can just press this little eyeball and it will show all the trade skills. Or you can just close this out and it will only show the ones that you are put points in, essentially, right? Very, very cool stuff there. Over here, you also have your damage and status resistances, so you can see I have points advantage 1, so if I'm dealing with a poison condition, the cool thing about the DC20 system within Foundry, if I even though it says it right here, it'll automatically do it automatically, so if I do have something that's going to affect me with poison, it will automatically give me advantage against that save, right? Another one is damage resistances, so that is right here too. So if you had damage resistance to cold or fire, that would show up there, right? And I'm going to go into this profile icons here. So you can already see here's my level right here, and then right next to it is my combat mastery. Your combat mastery is going to be half your level rounded up, okay? So that's what your combat mastery is, and the stuff that you're going to be using for like your attack checks and whatnot. Because your attack checks is actually going to be your prime plus your combat mastery. So that's what that, right? And then in here, you can also see this little level up icon. So if I were going to level up to level 2, I would press this. And then you can also see this rerun level up. So for example, if I was a player and I created my player character, but then I closed out the character advancement screen, I can click this rerun character level up and everything will work again. So that is good to know. Over here, you also have your character configuration. So if you want to change like physical defenses formula or change your points formula or anything in there, you can change it in here as well. And over here, you have your rest. So you can actually choose your rest type. So you have quick rests. Quick rests usually take like 5 minutes, and you get 2 of those per every long rest. And then you have your short rests as well, which will be 2 of those, and those things take an hour. You have 2 of those as well. But those allow you to actually regain your short rest ability. So if you have something that regains on a short rest, that's a good way to regain them. Another thing is your long rest, which is over here. And that's all right there as well. And then, of course, you have your full rest. Right? So all that's in there, ready to go. Right? Another thing that is worth noting is this right-hand side menu here. So you have your features, your like core stuff. Over here, you're going to find your inventory. So like your weapons, your equipment, your like coins. So right here, you have your copper, silver, gold, and platinum. Okay, all of that's right here. It's also worth noting that you can actually search up some of your items. So I was looking for my light armor. To do that, press enter, and then it will show up my light armor. So that's worth noting. Okay, and then also worth noting in here, so you have your so right here you can see the weapon name, and then of course this little icon to allow me to roll this item. On top of that, you can also see this melee versus physical defense. It's basically telling me what kind of check it's going to make against the target. And then it also tells me what kind of the damage type and then how much damage it's going to do on a base. Right. Another thing you have is weight, and then of course your quantity of the item. Is there very much something to note? And then right here you're going to have your charges. So if an item had charges, you would find it there. Okay. And then of course this is going to be for the use of other items. So if an item like uses a charge from a different item, let's say for instance you had like this wasn't really important to a player, but like let's say a dragon used a breath weapon, but this breath weapon comes from this breath weapon charge, it would be using this other item charge. Okay, and then of course you have how much resources this thing is going to cost. So you can kind of see here it's going to cost you 1 action point just to use the item alone. Okay, that's in there as well. And then over here, you're going to have your features. So like your class features are all right here. You also have your subclass features, your ancestry traits, and then everything else in here as well, like features and passives. So all of those are in there. And then over here, you have your techniques. This is the stuff that's going to be used for marshals mainly, or if you need maneuvers, this is where you're going to find. So over here, you can kind of see my maneuvers all right here. For example, you have extend attack, parry, all that stuff. Right, and you can also see what stuff I know. So you can see I know 4 out of 4 maneuvers, and then technique 0 out of 0. Okay, and then you of course also have spells, right? So if you're a spellcaster, you would actually see your spells all right here, and then you can also see what you know of the spells and cantrips. Okay, over here is going to be your effects tab. So this is where you're going to find all your effects under. Okay, so this is definitely something worth keeping track of. Okay, and of course you also have your biography. So if I wanted to create like a background on my character, like saying that he was on a small village or ran a marathon, but got captured while running, and then dot dot dot. Right. So this is how you would, create basically the like your story of your character. You can put it right in here. Right. All worth noting. Okay, another thing worth noting is when you roll an item. So I can roll an item here, and you can kind of see there's so much different stuff here. First thing worth noting is the expected cost. So you already know I'm going to be using 1 AP. I'm going to regain all there. But you can already know I'm going to be using 1 AP to use this item. So I could like do a power attack, and you can kind of see. That's weird. I'm not seeing anything. Oh wait, it's not going to do expected cost because we're not in combat. Aha, see that's a cool thing. That's a cool thing. So if I was in combat, right, it would actually show me the expected cost. So I'm actually gonna trigger that. And I'm gonna set up an initiative DC, let's say 11. So I press this, like I right click the character, press these little 2 swords to enable combat, run to my combat encounter, set the initiative DC to 11, and then now I can click the roll initiative either by clicking here or clicking here. I can click here because I have carousel combat tracker enabled. So I'm going to select the attack check, You can kind of see I have advantage because of our character here. And we hit begin combat. So you can see here, if I were to roll the item, you can kind of see its expected cost right now. So you can see right now it's going to use 1 AP because that's the cost. But then I can click this little 0 here to use my maneuver. So how many times do I want to use this maneuver? So if I want to just do power attack, I could do that. But then I could also just spend stamina instead of AP to do that. And then I could also give myself an extra point of advantage. And then you see here that he uses all my 4 action points. And then I could roll that item in here. And you could like see, okay, cool, I landed a critical hit with that. So then that's also really, really cool. Another really cool thing about being a GM here. So you can actually select certain things here. So for example, if I were to want to like, for example here, let's say like, oh yeah, he didn't target the character. I can just click this little load button here and I can like select a different character. So let's just say I dragged in, I don't know, the Crisis, right? And I could be like, okay, well, you didn't select the Crisis. Here we go. Now you're selecting it, right? So I would just select the Crisis and then click this little button here. And now it's targeting the Crisis and now it's automatically doing the damage to him as well. So that is something very, very worth noting in there as well, right? Especially with all of that. So that's just something really, really cool in itself. Another thing that you can do is also hit this little plus and minus button to increase the damage, and if you want to apply the damage, it's simple as just pressing this hammer. So we can do that, and you can kind of see it automatically applies the damage. So that's all worth noting inside character creation, right? So that's pretty much it for the character sheet. But if we want to talk about movement and everything else, what the players can do. So if characters want to move their character, and let's just regain all this guy's stuff. Let's say if we're middle of combat and we did have to drag our character, we could just drag and drop it. And you can kind of see it since we have the setting for movement pop up, it will tell me exactly how many movement points I'm using. But let's say I really didn't want to do that. I actually want to figure out where I want to move. I can click on this measure distance, click and drag to see where I want to place my movement, right? Another really cool thing is the fact that you can actually hit control, click, and then select. It basically allows you to get pretty much free movement to figure out where you want to go. So you can kind of see here, I'm going to be using 20 spaces of movement, hit that space, and then click yes. Yes again, and then click yes again. And boom, that's it there. Another really cool thing is I'm dragging the character and I hold F. It will actually trigger free movement, and I won't use movement points when dragging this character. That is just something to keep note of when you're moving characters and whatnot, right? So that's one of the things that they can do with everything and whatnot, right? And how to get select a character as their target. So let's say I wanted to target this Crisis. I could hover over it and press T, or I can actually click this little select targets icon and then just target him that way, right? So that's also in there as well. And let's say I want to target multiple, I could just do a shift click, drag, and now I'm targeting multiple, right? Another thing that players can do, if you have this setting enabled, they can actually create templates. So let's say I had a explosive radius of 5 spaces, I could create a template and drag and drop it right here. So you can kind of see where this template measurement controls are. I can give different kinds of templates I need to create, right? Your players might mess around with this a little bit too much, so some GMs will actually disable that setting. But yeah, it's something you can do. That's pretty much it for character creation. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.